Hello, Beginner Band families. My name is Andrew Bajorek, and I'm the director of the Highlander Bands. Many of you met me at the Instrument Placement Fair, but if I haven't met you yet, I'm looking forward to meeting you. The purpose of this presentation is just to go through all of the nitty-gritty of Beginner Band and the things that we do in this program and sort of the justification behind some of the things that we'll be asking of you in terms of supplies and schedule and all that. So hopefully you'll find this very helpful. I'll try to keep it as brief as possible. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me, call me, or text me, and I'd be happy to answer from there. So looking forward to fielding your questions and getting to know your sons and daughters more as we progress through Beginner Band. So the topics that we'll cover in this presentation are the following. Instrument acquisition, and where to find instruments, where to get them. The question, when do we get to bring our instruments home? Private lessons, grading policies, band fees, volunteerism, which we have quite a bit of in band, a program called Cut Time, and also Remind, which is part of the software technology that we use, parent band, and finally fantastic dates and where to find them, or otherwise known as our band calendar. First, instrument acquisition. Most of the instruments that are being used this year in Beginner Band, and most years in Beginner Band, are rental instruments. That is to say, we have a small amount of instruments at the school. Most of those are special instruments for marching band. Some of them are the larger instruments like baritone saxophones and tenor saxophones, soprano saxophones, bass trombones, things that are a little bit more unique or would not be something that a student would necessarily rent because it's not something that they would specialize in. In other words, it would be an instrument that they play as well as the instrument that they are renting after having learned it for a while into second or third year. But in any case, and of course the percussion kits are also rental. But in any case, those are the instruments that we typically provide. The ones that, or that you can rent from the school. We have a very, very small amount of other instruments, but really the best bet is to rent. And and actually some of the rentals have already started coming in, which is great. You can set up a rental through Music and Arts who have our supply lists. I also have linked the supply lists to this email so that if you wanted to take a look, you can. The supply lists are there to help set your student up for success. Just like anything else, the stock mouthpieces that come on with the clarinet, for instance, are not necessarily the best kind of mouthpiece for a beginner. Likewise with the saxophone, likewise with the trumpets, you may get a 3C mouthpiece. Well, that's not very good for a beginner. A lot of times they put these mouthpieces in these kits because they're sort of the least bad option, or they might be a cheap option. The mouthpiece is extremely important. So the supply lists are specific. They are researched. They are well thought out. And thorough for the very reason that we want to set up your son or daughter with a successful year of Beginner Band. Beware of these instrument-shaped objects. That pretty red trumpet or blue clarinet that you see are not necessarily the best bet. They might be cute, I guess. But they are more toy than instrument, and it's essential that as we set up students, even the young ones in 5th grade and 6th grade, we want to set them up so that they're taking their instrument seriously to the point where because it's a skill they have to learn, it takes time. And we want to make sure we set them up for success, right? And these instruments, instrument manufacturers chose a brass lacquer because it has a lot to do with the sound, not necessarily because it has a pretty look. And so, these other colors, these blues, these reds, these purples, these other instruments, they're made of really poor quality materials, and they're not the kind of thing that you want to be starting your son or daughter on. We do have a small amount of instruments in stock here at school, like P trumpets that we use for effect, or we may use as a demonstration instrument as at an elementary night, so that they don't get damaged, or maybe for marching band or something like that, for an effect kind of thing. But for learning to play as an endeavor, you want to learn on a good instrument. And I think it's important also to underline this. This is not to say we are creating professional musicians here in this room. We are not. The 10% of the children that come through and go all 7 years through the band program or 8 years through the band program, whenever they start, will become professional musicians, maybe. I don't know. It's more about setting them up for success so that they feel successful and want to continue in the band program, because the marker of doing that is creating good sounds quickly in beginner band once we start opening up the instruments. So by avoiding the instrument-shaped objects, you are setting your son or daughter up for success. Thank you. I know that's kind of a long description of an ISO, but I think it's important to address it right on the head. And the last bit of this is, look, you go to the Orlando Philharmonic or the Florida Orchestra or any of your Jacksonville Symphony. Go there and you tell me when you see a blue trumpet, and I'll tell you that's why, because they don't sound very good and they're not constructed very durably. It's not good. So instruments come home nightly, but they won't for a while. I've been already fielding this question from students, and I'm excited that they're excited. It's important that they know what to do when they come home with them. There are some habits, even just kind of wailing on the thing at home will create with a student that are very difficult to break. And many band directors, many musicians spend a lot more time breaking habits than they do forming them, because of kind of a hasty interest in getting to the instrument. I take my time getting to the instrument. I take my time. I front load theory. I make sure that the students have an understanding and are successful at something before they open up that instrument case. That's why we're doing the rhythm charts. That's why we're doing the note name flashcards, because we want the students to be very successful on the things that are a little bit more difficult before we get even to the harder part, which is opening up the instrument and making a sound and sounding bad for a while. And that's just the way it goes. So in any case, that's the skinny. Around when they're ready, late September, early October, we'll start having instruments come home each night, and I'll let you know when that's happening. Private lessons are essential for the success of students in beginner band. Private lessons not only help students become proficient at their instruments, but it helps them get that personalized attention that they get in class, but not to the degree that they really need it. I have a heterogeneous environment in my class. So that means I have got flutes, clarinets, saxophones, trumpets, trombones, percussion all in one room. I don't mind that, but it is certainly kind of in a way teaching softball, football, basketball, badminton, and swimming kind of all at the same time. There are some things that cross over from instrument to instrument, but many of them don't. For instance, when you play a concert F on a saxophone, that's a written D, but when you play a concert F on a B-flat clarinet, that's a written G. And even though the mouthpieces look the same, they are vastly different in the way that they are played. A saxophone embouchure is certainly a lot different than clarinet. So, in any case, all that aside, they'll be successful in class just fine. But really, to get the full effect of being in band and becoming proficient at a skill of their instrument, private lessons are essential. I mean, they really are. So we have an in-house private lesson program. I'm happy to give up a day of class for a student if they want to take during band class. It's fine with me if they take private lessons. It's all nutrition. It's very good. So yes, I highly encourage private lessons. These are the things that students will be assessed on or be evaluated on. I do ask for some practicing to happen at home. It's a skill that we have to learn, and sometimes that can be that all the time. It takes time to learn a skill. So about 90 minutes a week, and we will be doing some chair tests. We try to give students room to make mistakes in a safe environment, and we do that in band because that is one of the purposes. When you come into band, we want to do our best to learn how to make mistakes. There will be some homework quizzes, a little bit in beginner band, and of course some checks on supplies and whatnot. Finally, the most important thing, or one of the most important things, is coming to the concerts, even the ones that the kids aren't playing at. And I understand schedules are busy, so I'm sensitive to that. But at the same time, the concert where the students are playing are essential. You have to come to those, because those are what we're working toward, is that public performance, and that's a good thing for the students too. They get to feel what it feels like to play in front of people and get that feeling of accomplishment. And the concert happens once a semester for Beginner Band, so we know far enough out. It's December 9th. It's far enough away to make sure that we are there. But other than that, coming to the concerts, the October 8th concert, for instance, where the concert and the symphonic band are playing, like those are great things for students to come to and hear what the goal is and hear what they're working toward. It's a good thing. So I highly encourage that. And concerts, another thing to emphasize is that concerts are over when the last group is done performing, and oftentimes that's all the kids together and some things too, depending on where we're at, making sure we can do that and they're successful. There are some band fees. They are $150 annually, and they just get billed to your school account. The fees pay for a lot of things. We buy sheet music. We have method books in-house. We have some software that we use and technology that is applied. There's some equipment in the band room that needs to be maintained, and just the general ability to run the band program is dependent on student needs. So along with a good amount of stipend from the school as well. So it's an important part of band, and that band does cost money, but the benefits I should hope you'll see are absolutely invaluable. I mean, you really will find your kids are awesome, and they're so respectful and everything so far, and I can't wait for you to see how they change too, and the way that they approach their instrument, they approach band and discipline, and being attentive to the details. Volunteerism is a ubiquitous factor of band programs. Volunteers are absolutely essential in band, and volunteer opportunities become much more plentiful as we grow through the band programs. But I think it's important to say that there will be some volunteer opportunities throughout this year, and I will be asking for some help. So, most of the time this is for performances. There are also trips, but the more that we can have all hands on deck, it's great, and students love to see mom and dad involved too. I know my kids do, and it really it kind of underlines that meaning of being sort of the Highlander Band family. Cut Time and Remind. Cut Time is our band program management software. It is designed and managed by a company called J.W. Pepper, which is known for sheet music and band supplies. The Cut Time's main function in our program at this time is inventory tracking, making sure that we're taking care of our assets, making sure that we're knowing where things are. We have some wonderful instruments in-house. We have wonderful things at our fingertips, but I want to make sure we take care of where those things are at. And the library, making sure that our library is up to date and we have the right kind of titles, and that we're being competitive in the way that we're looking at repertoire and what we're presenting to students. This also helps me with longitudinal planning. So for instance, this year there will be three flute players in beginner band. Well, that means next year in concert band I should have around 5 flutes. However, there's attrition, and so I have to kind of plan ahead and see what our instrumentation is going to look like and make sure that I'm reflexive to building a strong program. So Cut Time helps me with that as well. There is a back end on that. You'll be receiving a little invitation to get onto Cut Time, so that your demographics will be on there and help me to assign instruments and forms and things that come through there. And then there's Remind. I think many of you are familiar with Remind, but Remind is our communication, short-term communication. Cut Time has a communication component, but it's not very well fleshed out yet. It's rather new software. It's been only around for a couple of years now. So Remind is the tried and true. It works really well, and it's what we'll use at this band program. There is another really interesting and kind of unique opportunity here. Parent band. Suzuki was a pedagogue for music education, and he specialized in string education, but his big his big to-do, or one of his big claims was that parental participation was one of the strongest things that would help a student be successful in band, or in learning how to play an instrument. And that's why a lot of times you see Suzuki parents learning the violin along with their Suzuki child. And we don't run a Suzuki program. Our program is based more on a concept and approach by Eddie Green, but there we do have a parent band, and this is something that Mr. Greening had formed in the past. And so Trace Rowe is the contact person for this, and she may be reaching out to you about parent band. These parents start from the ground up. We also have a way to accommodate students, or I should say parent students that have had some experience as well. We have quite a few that were in the band when they were in high school or whatever, and they still have their instruments or whatnot. So parent band is a great thing. They meet during the week, once I think nightly, and it's a good amount of fun. So would love for you to consider being in the parent band. And finally, the band calendar. The band calendar is the lifeblood of the band. It's the bread and butter. It's where you'll find out all of our events. It's actually on the band website. You can see I just screen capped that right from there just a few minutes ago. But that's the sort of all the things that are happening. We also have a Twitter and a social media presence that I'm developing right now. But really, the band calendar is where you'll find out all of the events. So that's where that's at. So, in any case, hopefully this was somewhat helpful. I tried to keep it as brief as possible, and I'm sorry if I spoke really fast. I made a first iteration of this, and it was 25 minutes long. I thought, well, maybe I should edit a bit. And so, in any case, I do hope that you find this helpful. If there is anything that you need, if you have questions, concerns, if you see an instrument that you'd like and for your child to have, and you want to make sure that it's the right one, etc., etc. Why are the kids still counting and not playing yet? Let me know. Give me email me, shoot me a text, or call the school at my extension. I'm happy to chat with you. Obviously, I like to talk about band, and I am overjoyed to have you a part of it. I think that this beginner band is going to be one that is extremely strong. There's a lot of kids that are moving through these counting charts and through the flashcards with great facility, and I think that we're going to be moving at the appropriate pace where they'll be extremely successful. And really, that's what it's all about, is creating that excellence from day one. So look forward to meeting all of you and getting to know your families, because I think with any luck we'll be together for quite a long time. So if you have any questions, again, please feel free to contact me. Otherwise, have an excellent evening, and be sure to check that action items list in your email so that everything can get off the ground smoothly. Thank you so much for watching, listening to this, and we'll see you soon.